They kicked in my gate at 2 a.m., guns drawn, shouting fake laws like they owned the place. But what they didn't know was that I trained Navy SEALs here. In less than 30 seconds, their rifles were on the ground, their faces in the dirt, and their orders exposed. That should have been the end. But when I traced who sent them... Karen Pritchard, HOA president turned shadow general. I won't just ruin her life. I'll make her wish she never learned my name. And by the time I'm done, she'll beg for exile. And trust me, you're not ready for what comes next. Where in the world are you watching this Karen story from? Drop your city in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories just like this. You don't want to miss what's coming next. The wind scraped dry leaves across the gravel as Jack Coleman stood at the edge of the town hall's cracked cement steps, arms folded, eyes cold. The community meeting was packed, folding chairs lined like dominoes, faces tense, lips pursed. And at the center, with her trademark red jacket and clipboard clutched like a scepter, stood Karen Pritchard, president of the newly restructured Copper Ridge HOA. She tapped the mic. Let's move to the final item on today's agenda. Parcel 12B, owned by Mr. Coleman. An undeveloped plot, underutilized and, frankly, obstructing our vision for community elevation. Jack narrowed his eyes. Undeveloped, he growled. That land's more alive than half this town. Karen gave a thin-lipped smile. And yet still not compliant. You've refused 4 inspection requests, no landscaping reports, no soil tests, and no cooperation. Jack stepped forward. Because I don't answer to you, or your made-up rules. Gasps rippled through the room. Karen raised a single eyebrow. This isn't a debate, Mr. Coleman. The board has unanimously voted to recommend enforcement. Either you enter into negotiation, or what? Jack snapped. You going to send another compliance notice wrapped in threats? Or one of your fake surveys with a closing contract attached? Karen's eyes flared. She leaned into the mic, her voice sharpening like broken glass. Don't make this harder than it has to be. The community has a right to beautify, to grow. Jack's boots thudded against the floor as he closed the gap between them. What you call beautification, he said, his voice low, looks a hell of a lot like erasure. A hush fell over the room. Karen took a half step back. He didn't blink. I won't sell. Not today. Not ever. Karen exhaled slowly, then smiled with venomous calm. Then don't be surprised if the community acts on your behalf. Sometimes people need a little help letting go. Jack stared her down, jaw clenched. Try me. He turned and walked out, the heavy wooden door slamming behind him like a war drum. Karen watched him go, her nails digging into the clipboard. She didn't like no for an answer. And Jack had just given her the loudest one of her life. And deep down he knew this wasn't over, not even close. The night air was crisp and silent, too silent. Jack Coleman stood on the overlook of his property, the moonlight casting long shadows over the pine-lined trails and obstacle course below. From the distance, a pair of boots crunched gravel, then another, subtle, calculated, but sloppy. He tapped the comms on his shoulder. Movement. East fence. 3 contacts. No formation. No coordination. A voice answered through the earpiece. Gravelly. Calm. Copy that. Visual confirmed. What's the play? Jack's jaw tightened. Observe. Record. Hold fire unless they breach. Down below, 3 figures emerged from the tree line, clad in black tactical gear with reflective white tape spelling out HOA enforcement across their vests. Crooked, hand-cut, laughable. One held a clipboard. The other 2 had rifles. Jack's breath stayed level, but his mind moved like lightning. She really did it. Karen actually sent goons into my land in the dead of night. Not code enforcement. Not negotiation. An invasion. From a concealed trail camera, Jack watched as one of the men raised his weapon toward the house. Target sighted. Non-compliant resident. Proceeding with inspection. Jack's fist clenched. She's crossed the line, he muttered. Now we respond. Behind him, 2 shadows stood ready. Marcus and Deeks, fellow SEALs and brothers in arms. No words were needed. Eyes met, heads nodded. The hunt began. Meanwhile, in her brightly lit HOA office, Karen sipped tea from a porcelain mug that read Director of Order. She glanced at her monitor, watching GPS dots flicker across a digital map of Copper Ridge. Her eyes landed on Jack's parcel. "You wanted to play soldier," she whispered, smirking. "Let's see how you handle a real compliance check." Back on the field, Jack gave the signal. Engage. And the shadows melted into the woods like wolves unleashed. Whatever Karen thought was coming, she was wrong. The first intruder crept past the cedar tree, rifle raised, boots crunching softly over pine needles. His breath fogged in the cold air, vision darting. The house loomed ahead, silent, dark, ordinary. But what he didn't see were the eyes watching from above. Jack was already in position, flat against a thick branch 10 feet overhead, shadow wrapped around him like a second skin. He didn't blink, didn't flinch. His voice whispered over the comm. "Alpha on target. Hold timing. Confirm visual on all 3. "Bravo in place," Marcus replied. "Middle guy has poor trigger discipline. He's shaking." Deeks added, "Third one's lagging, watching his 6. Might be ex-security, might just be scared." "Copy," Jack said, eyes locked. "On my mark." Below, the lead man stepped closer to the house and raised his rifle toward the porch. "Target acquired. No movement. Preparing breach." That was all Jack needed. He dropped. The branch barely stirred as his boots landed squarely on the intruder's shoulders. The man hit the ground with a thud, his rifle skittering across the dirt. Jack was already on top of him, knee to the ribs, forearm crushing the throat. "Don't move," Jack growled. "You blink, I break your jaw." The second man turned at the noise, but Marcus was already there. A shadow behind a shadow. One arm snapped around the man's neck in a rear choke, the other stripped the weapon clean. "Drop it," Marcus ordered, "or I'll make your elbow bend backwards." The third man froze. Deeks emerged from the tree line like a ghost. "Down. Now." The intruder hesitated, then dropped to his knees, rifle raised overhead. Jack leaned close to the man beneath him, grabbing the radio from his vest and hissing into the mic. "Inspection canceled. Call your boss. Tell her she sent lambs to a den of wolves." The man wheezed. We're authorized." Jack slammed the radio into the dirt. "You're trespassing on federal land under private ownership. You're armed. You're finished." Deeks bound the third guy's wrists with zip ties as Marcus stripped weapons and checked for comms. In under 30 seconds, the HOA tactical unit was neutralized, disarmed, and lying face down in the dirt, moaning, coughing, whimpering. Jack stood over them like stone. He picked up the rifle the first man had dropped and examined it. Military grade, unregistered. Duct tape letters, cheap radios, no badge numbers. "This isn't code enforcement," he said coldly. "This is intimidation with camouflage." One of the attackers, still panting, muttered, "We were told you wouldn't resist." Jack crouched down, staring straight into the man's eyes. "You were lied to, and now I'm going to make sure the one who sent you pays for every second of this stunt." Sirens hadn't sounded yet. That was the most dangerous part. Karen thought she could do this quietly. No noise, no records, no blowback. But Jack had body cams on, tripwire footage, comms recorded, and 3 breathing witnesses. He stood, cracked his knuckles, and looked out toward the woods. "Deeks, call Bramble. Tell him we've got a package ready for pickup." "Copy that," Deeks replied. As the wind stirred the trees above them, Jack glanced at the fallen men one last time and muttered, "You walked into the wrong damn forest." And the war had just begun. The 3 men lay restrained on the gravel near Jack's porch, their black gear smeared with pine sap and humiliation. Deeks kept a watchful eye, his sidearm steady. Marcus was already unpacking the tactical packs one by one, silent, surgical, thorough. Jack stood in the doorway, arms crossed, jaw tight. He watched as Marcus laid out the contents across a plastic tarp. GPS tracker, thermal imaging monocular, HOA branded inspection papers, a printed map of Copper Ridge with multiple homes circled in red. Jack narrowed his eyes. "That's not enforcement. That's targeting." Deke stepped forward with another item, a laminated violation escalation sheet with checkboxes beside phrases like refusal to comply, delayed response, potential psychological resistance. Jack snatched it and read aloud, his voice sharp. Target is ex-military, antisocial tendencies, may provoke conflict, deploy with caution. He looked up, fire in his eyes. They wrote a damn dossier on me. Suddenly, the restrained man in the middle, sweat dripping from his brow, spoke up. We didn't want to hurt anybody. She said it was just a scare, that you'd back down if we applied pressure. Jack crouched beside him. Who's she? He hesitated. Karen Pritchard, HOA board president. She said you were a threat to community stability. Jack let out a sharp laugh, cold and humorless. You mean I was a threat to her control? She said, the man continued, you were training militants, that if you weren't removed, you'd destabilize property values. Jack stood and turned to Marcus. Get me the body cam footage. Full sync to cloud. Already done, Marcus said. It's uploading now. Jack looked at the other two men. And you two? What were you promised? A bonus? A promotion in her fake security division? Neither answered. He stepped back, voice rising. She sent you in here armed, under cover of night, to make me kneel. But all she did was declare war, and now the whole county's about to see it. At that moment, a soft ding came from Deke's phone. A message from Detective Bramble. Confirmed. I'm en route. Sit tight. We're about to make this official. Jack nodded. He looked back at the circled map, and the other homes marked. This isn't just about me anymore, he muttered. She's building something bigger, something rotten. He turned to Marcus and Deeks, eyes cold. Time to shine some light on it. And inside the house, the screens flickered to life, footage, files, faces, a digital war chest. Karen had started this in the dark. Jack was going to end it in broad daylight. Karen Pritchard's office was a shrine to authority. HOA codebooks lined the walls in pristine order. Behind her oak desk, framed certificates boasted phrases like Community Leadership Excellence and Civic Harmony Initiative. But the monitor on her desk told a different story. A map of Copper Ridge glowed on screen, overlaid with resident data, behavioral tags, and surveillance timestamps. Her custom software flagged non-compliant homes in orange, potential threats in red. Jack's property blinked angrily at the center of it all. Karen sipped from her Director of Order mug and scrolled through the live feed. Her lips curled as she watched 3 icons, her fake enforcers, go dark on the tracker. Idiots, she muttered. Can't even intimidate a hermit. A board member messaged her. No updates from Team Echo. Should we alert police? Karen typed back fast. No. Delay. Frame it as trespassing if needed. We control the narrative. She stood, heels clicking across polished hardwood, and opened a drawer. Inside, burner phones, HOA-issued ID cards, and a sealed envelope marked Legal Overrides, Phase 2. She didn't blink. Meanwhile, back at Jack's cabin, Marcus watched the map flicker. She's not just logging us, he muttered. She's running psychological ops, predictive profiling, behavior tags, pressure response markers. Jack stared at the data on screen. This isn't an HOA, it's a hostile network. Deeks added, look at this. 3 more families flagged for quiet removal. 2 have already moved. 1 got sighted 6 times in a week, by drones. Jack clenched his fists. She's testing thresholds, seeing who breaks first. He stepped toward the monitor, eyes burning. And if they don't break, she sends dogs in the dark. Karen's voice crackled from a saved voicemail on the screen. They played it. If the military man won't comply, then maybe his neighbors will. All it takes is 1 broken fence, 1 anonymous noise complaint, and we take it from there. The room went silent. Jack grabbed his phone. Call Bramble. Tell him to bring the damn cavalry. He looked out the window toward the HOA office, miles away but now very much in his sights. She wanted a power play. I'll give her a war. The SUV rolled to a stop outside Jack's gate just past dawn. Dust swirled in the morning light as Detective Bramble stepped out, coat wrinkled, tie crooked, but eyes sharp as hell. He didn't wait for greetings. He walked straight toward the porch where Jack stood, arms crossed. "You look like hell," Bramble muttered. Jack tossed him a flash drive. "Karen's worse." Bramble plugged it into a rugged tablet and watched as the screen lit up. Live footage of the armed break-in, voice logs, GPS pings, surveillance overlays. His brow furrowed deeper with every file. He looked up. She militarized a homeowners association. She turned it into a weaponized real estate machine, Jack snapped. Every house she can't intimidate, she bleeds with fines. Anyone who resists gets labeled a threat. Marcus handed Bramble a second folder. Printouts, drone captures, falsified inspection forms. She used shell companies to authorize enforcement actions. The addresses are fake. The names don't exist, but the signatures match hers, Marcus said. Deeks added, 2 families already gone this month. 1 house flipped within 48 hours to a company tied to her husband's firm. Bramble cursed under his breath. She's laundering the entire block. She's engineering a takeover, Jack said. Not just of land, of control. She wants psychological dominance, fear compliance. Bramble stood still for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the DA. With this, we push for a search warrant. Documents, devices, everything." "Go bigger," Jack growled. "Publicly, loud. She hides in shadows. Drag her into the light." Bramble nodded. "You want her cornered?" "No," Jack said flatly. "I want her dismantled." The detective turned, walking back to his SUV. Before getting in, he looked back. "She'll retaliate." Jack's voice was calm, lethal. "Let her." Meanwhile, in the HOA headquarters, Karen's phone vibrated. Unknown sender. Encrypted message. She tapped it. The screen showed a still frame of the captured footage. Her hired goons zip-tied and groaning. Her smirk vanished. She slammed the phone on the desk, grabbed her tablet, and opened her operations dashboard. A red alert flashed. Surveillance breach. Priority level 1. Karen's nails tapped the table in a fury. "They want to fight dirty?" she muttered. "Then we escalate." She pressed a button. On screen, a list of names appeared. Priority resistance targets. At the top, Jack Coleman, and beside it, active. The Copper Ridge Community Center had never seen a turnout like this. Chairs lined the aisles in tight rows, packed shoulder to shoulder with wary residents. Whispers buzzed through the room like static, heavy with confusion and dread. Everyone had heard rumors. Raids, disappearances, compliance sweeps. But no one had spoken aloud what they all feared, until now. At the front of the room, standing under the HOA seal like a monarch on trial, was Karen Pritchard, draped in her blood-red blazer and armed with her ever-present clipboard. Her hair was perfectly coiffed, her smile fake as ever. "Let's bring the meeting to order," she said into the microphone, her voice syrupy and firm. "Today, we'll be voting on new emergency amendments, namely, expedited enforcement for properties deemed hazardous or non-compliant to community vision." Jack stood in the back, arms folded, silent as stone. Marcus and Deeks flanked him, both in plain clothes but coiled with purpose. Karen continued. "This is about safety, not punishment. About progress, not exclusion. And if a few outdated structures stand in the way of Copper Ridge's growth—" "Outdated?" Jack barked, loud enough to stop every breath in the room. All heads turned. Karen stiffened. He stepped forward, slow and steady, boots echoing off the tiled floor like a countdown. "Is that what you call homes you can't extort? Families you can't control?" Karen's face tightened. "Mr. Coleman, this is a private board meeting. It's a sham." Jack cut her off. "A performance dressed in bylaws and lies." He turned to the crowd. "You want to know what Karen Pritchard's been doing behind closed doors? She's been staging armed raids, fabricating violations, profiling your families like enemies on a battlefield." Karen's voice dropped in pitch, her tone razor sharp. "You have no proof of any of that." Jack reached into his coat and tossed a flash drive onto the table beside her. "Body cam footage. Audio recordings, surveillance logs, all synced, all verified. Gasps rippled through the room. Bramble stepped out from the crowd, flashing his badge. "We've secured a warrant, Ms. Pritchard. Every server, every contract, every fake enforcement order, you're done." Karen's mask cracked. "This is outrageous! You're siding with vigilantes? He's a militant. He runs a combat camp." Jack leaned forward, voice like steel. "I run a sanctuary. You run a racket." Karen's lips curled, venom dripping. "You don't get it, do you? These people, they need control. Order, fear keeps them in line." "Not anymore," Jack said. Bramble raised his hand, and 2 uniformed officers stepped forward. "Karen Pritchard," he announced, "you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, armed intimidation, impersonation of law enforcement, and unlawful surveillance." She lunged for her clipboard, but one officer grabbed her wrist and twisted it behind her back with swift precision. Her clipboard clattered to the floor, papers scattering like ashes. "You can't do this!" she shrieked. "This community belongs to me!" Jack stepped closer, towering over her as she struggled in handcuffs. "No, Karen. This community belongs to the people you tried to break." The crowd erupted, first in stunned silence, then in scattered applause. Neighbors who had lived in fear now stood taller, voices rising. Someone chanted, "No more Karen!" and others joined in. Karen was dragged through the aisle, face flushed, eyes wild. She twisted to look at Jack one last time. "You think this is over?" she hissed. "You don't know who you're messing with." Jack didn't flinch. "I do now. And you're not coming back." As the doors slammed behind her, the tension in the room lifted like a curse broken. Jack turned to the crowd. "She tried to bury us in silence, but today we made noise. Today, we take our streets back." The room roared in agreement. Outside, the air felt different, and for the first time in years, Copper Ridge finally breathed. The sun broke through the morning clouds like a verdict. For the first time in months, Copper Ridge felt still, but not the uneasy stillness of surveillance. This was something different, real, earned. Jack stood in front of his cabin, sleeves rolled up, a weathered wooden pole slung over one shoulder. At his feet lay a small hand-stitched flag. White background, 2 diagonal blue stripes, no HOA logo, no slogans, just space and meaning. He dug into the soil by his mailbox, boots caked in fresh dirt. Every strike of the shovel felt like an undoing of Karen's rules, her fines, her threats. Deke stepped out from the cabin, watching silently. "You sure you want to make it official?" he asked. Jack didn't answer. He raised the pole, slid the flag into place, and drove it deep into the earth with a final, decisive stomp. The fabric fluttered slowly in the breeze, catching sunlight like a beacon. Down the road, a few neighbors emerged from their houses, hesitant at first. An elderly man in flannel paused with his cane. A young couple holding hands stopped mid-walk. A mother pushing a stroller looked up from her phone. One by one they noticed, and nodded. Jack turned back toward the house. Marcus sat on the porch rail, arms crossed, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Doesn't look like a war zone anymore," he said. Jack nodded. "Not yet. But we hold the line." Deeks chimed in. "Karen's assets are frozen. Bramble says more arrests are coming. Contractors, board members. It's all unraveling." "Good," Jack muttered. "But this wasn't just about taking her down. It's about what we build after." He looked back at the flag. This land was never hers to control. It was ours to protect. A car slowed in front of the house. A teenage boy leaned out the window and gave a thumbs up before driving on. Jack watched him disappear around the bend, then turned to his team. "We stay ready. We rebuild. And we don't forget how close we came to losing it all." The flag flapped louder, and for the first time it didn't sound like warning. It sounded like freedom. Night settled over Copper Ridge like a breath finally exhaled. The air was cooler now, clean, no hum of drones, no headlights parked in the shadows, No clicking from hidden cameras. Only the whisper of trees and the rhythmic chirping of crickets. Natural. Alive. Jack Coleman sat on the front steps of his cabin, a mug of black coffee in one hand, and silence in the other. Across from him, the flag he'd raised that morning still fluttered. Slower now. Softer. But no less proud. He didn't need words. Not yet. Deeks leaned against the porch post, arms crossed. Karen's arraignment is set for Monday. No bail. She cracked during questioning. Named every shell company, every fake contractor, every board member who took a cut. Jack didn't look up. Good. Let her rot in her own paperwork. Marcus stepped out, tossing his jacket onto a nearby chair. You hear about the vote? What vote? Jack asked, eyebrow raised. They're dissolving the HOA, permanently. Counties stepping in to restructure, but only if the community wants it. Jack stared into the night. And do they? Marcus shrugged. Hard to say. People are still scared. They don't trust the word authority anymore. Jack nodded slowly. Maybe that's not a bad thing. He rose, walked to the flagpole, and ran his fingers along the fabric. Stitched by neighbors, not printed by power. They used fear to make us small, he said. But fear doesn't grow roots. It only burns them. He looked back at his friends. So we plant something stronger. From the road, headlights flickered. A line of cars rolled past. Slow, respectful. Neighbors honked gently, waved, gave quiet salutes. Some pulled over to shake hands, offer casseroles, say thank you without saying it. A girl in a hoodie left a note on the gate. Jack picked it up. It read, "You made us brave again." He didn't smile. He breathed. Later that night, Jack sat alone once more. The porch light glowed behind him, soft and steady. His eyes scanned the horizon, not searching for danger, but honoring the peace. He spoke aloud to no one. War doesn't always come with uniforms. Sometimes it wears a clipboard, a smile, a rule book. But whatever face it wears next time, we'll be ready. The flag rustled once, then fell still. And in that stillness, Copper Ridge wasn't just safe. It was finally free. And so, it ended not with a battle, but with a flag in the wind, and a neighborhood that finally remembered how to breathe. What started as a simple land dispute turned into something far bigger. It became a war of principles, about fear, about silence, and about control. But more than that, it became a reminder that power, left unchecked, will always try to grow in the dark. Karen Pritchard didn't just abuse a system. She built one. A network of intimidation masked as leadership. Fines disguised as order. Armed raids justified by meaningless regulations. And all of it fueled by one belief. That people wouldn't fight back. She was wrong. This wasn't just about HOA corruption. This was about what happens when someone confuses compliance with community. When they confuse authority with respect. And it showed us a brutal truth. People don't lose their homes because they're weak. They lose them because they're isolated. But the moment neighbors start talking again, the moment they start watching out for each other, showing up for each other, that's the moment tyrants fall. Jack didn't fight Karen with anger. He fought her with truth, with unity, and with a refusal to bow. That flag outside his cabin wasn't a symbol of war. It was a symbol of resilience, of remembrance, of quiet, everyday bravery. What's the lesson? Sometimes, the most dangerous weapon in the world isn't a gun or a gavel. It's silence. And the most powerful thing you can do is simply speak. Whether it's in your neighborhood, your workplace, or even your own family. Never let someone bully you into believing you have no choice. You always have a choice. You always have a voice. And when you use it for something bigger than yourself, that's when change begins. Now it's your turn. Have you ever dealt with an abusive HOA, a toxic leader, or someone who tried to control others through fear? Do you think communities are stronger when they resist, or when they comply? Comment below and tell us your thoughts. We want to hear your story. Your voice matters here. And before you go, if this story hit home, or if it made you feel just a little more brave, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another Karen story like this one. because the next time someone comes knocking with a clipboard and a smile, you'll be ready. Thanks for watching. Stay strong, stay loud, and we'll see you in the next one.